Good morning, Win Calgary. My name is Jesse, and welcome to episode 3 of Win Stories. This is a portion of our segment where we take a deeper dive into the life and the journey of our brethren, where they get to meet Jesus. I'm super excited about our episode for today because our special guest is somebody who I hold very dearly to me. Mr. Dennis Raymundo. How's it going today, Dennis?
Hey, Jesse. It's a pleasure to be here.
This is going to be our opportunity to visit the life of Kuya Dennis. Is that all right, Kuya Dennis? You're going to be all right?
Yeah, we'll do our best to dive into it, and hopefully we.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
So as right now, I am happily married, and I'm a father of 3. I work for a company called Track. I've been with them for 8 years. If I'm not working, I'm actually staying active. If not in martial arts, I do boxing, amateur boxing.
Have you always been a Christian growing up, or?
No, believe it or not, Jesse, it's actually my girlfriend, which is my wife now, Jonalyn, that was the vessel of introducing me to Win Ministry, right? And that's when I decided to, dive into having that deep relationship with Jesus, right? It's never been, like smooth road, but that was the start.
So what was it like growing up? Because obviously, you came across that point in your life where you actually only got to know Jesus about in the middle of your life. So what was it like before that?
I would say life was confusing. Part of it was because the biggest part of it's because I never got to meet my biological dad. It's always been that kind of like empty hole in my life where I'm like, you wonder, what does he look like? What is he like? I've only heard stories about him. I've only heard his name. So you wonder all these things about him, right? But with that, I was also fortunate to have my mom always being there for me and my stepdad. Although the relationship isn't what I envisioned as for how it is with like a father and son, there's always been difficulties, and there are times where I felt like I was never treated as a son, in a sense.
Did you?
So yeah, with that, it's been difficult, and growing up, Jesse, I've always felt like I was treated differently compared to my siblings, compared to other people. With them, they've never treated me any different. I love my siblings. We've never even come across the conversations like, hey, we're half brothers, half sister, right? No, it's always been that comfortable with them. But
what do you think the reason is as to why they treated you specifically differently?
Being a father or a mother, like there's no manual on how to be a parent, right? So understanding my stepdad now, he was just kind of learning along the way, right? And at that time, it was hard for me. It was really hard for me to understand that because I was the kid, right? And you always look up to your parents, right? He was the father figure that I was looking up to, but at the same time, I felt like there was shortcoming into love. There was shortcoming into how to be a role model and stuff like that.
What were you like when you were a teen?
I felt every teenagers, if they're not guided properly, there's that confusion on what's right from wrong and whatnot. And unfortunately, I ended up choosing mostly the wrong thing to do. There's that violent nature because of my fear. I have that violent nature in me of because I feel like sometimes at home I can express myself.
Okay.
So I felt like there's a lot of emotionally negative feelings that's been inflicted in me, and I'm looking to bounce up to somebody else or somewhere else. And yeah, it was really, really bad, and until I got in trouble with authorities because I got caught assaulting someone, that's what it's like when I was growing up.
Oh, I
So
see.
little things I would say,
Yeah.
little things I would do. If I make a mistake, I would really get in trouble for it, even though if I don't mean to.
Oh, I see.
So yeah, that's why.
So what did your parents know, or your stepdad and your mom know that it was pretty hard for you and this is what's happening
My
outside of
mom
the
would
house?
console me from time to time, and she would say that, hey, I know it's hard for you and this and that, but just try to understand your dad and this and of course me, like I always have that thing where I'm like, you know what, I have respect and love for my parents, and,
Yeah.
and I'm always hoping that things will turn the corner and everything will be okay. But it's just I always, for me, the way I saw it was like he never looked at me as his own son.
So you always had
That's
that
why
in the back of your mind.
exactly.
I see.
So I always thought that hey, there's just that emptiness in me. I'm always looking for that father figure.
Mhm.
When this was all unfolding, everything happened really fast. I met this young woman, Jonalyn, right? There's something different about her. She's very persuasive. Even though how many times I've hurt her or I've done things wrong to her. And when that happened, she actually introduced me to Win Ministry. She's like, you should come to church with us. It'll be good and whatnot. So while this is all happening, I'm also dealing with my demons from the past, right? So it's all happening, but I feel like it was God's plan to have this all happen so that I can really see His grace in my life, right? And then when I checked out the church, like everybody was so friendly, everybody was so loving, and I've never been hugged by other people than my mom in that sense.
Yeah.
The one thing I remember my stepdad told me when I moved out was that if you move out of this house, don't even recognize that we're family. I remember the one time I was at a train station, waiting for my bus so I can go to my friend's house from where I'm staying at. And I saw him go drive by. I was nervous because knowing him, he can be violent, and I don't know what he might do to me. So I kind of froze. at the bus stop, and I don't know what to do. I didn't know if I should make eye contact with him or whatnot. But he drove by like I was a stranger. And that's when I said, okay. Somehow it was a relief.
That he just drove by, didn't even acted like you weren't there,
Yeah.
knew exactly that you were there though.
But it hurt because,
That's right. Because he's your support.
well, I've always longed to have a father figure, right?
That's right.
So, yeah, it was both a relief and painful. And from there, that's when I said, I need something different in my life. And yeah, things happened with Win, and Tito's and Tito Joe opened their home. So I stayed for them, I think, for the whole weekend and whatnot. Because I felt like a gypsy or a homeless person, just going houses to houses. And there was that one time where I had no place to be. So, for me, if you come think of it, that's hard.
Yeah.
Because how can you trust someone, especially at 18 years old, that's troubled? How can you welcome them from your own household? Troubled, all you hear is that he gets in trouble. All you hear is he does all this bad stuff, right? But no questions asked. Tito Joe and Tito Rose. I can remember my first morning. I woke up, breakfast. I had breakfast with them and their kids. And I was confused. I'm like, what is this? This this only happens in movies. So, yeah, I was really confused because I'm like, I can't believe, people like this exist. A ministry like this exists where they're out there to help you out, not to judge you, not to persecute you for what you've done, but to see miracles happen in your life.
So, explain to us what your first encounter with Jesus was like.
So, my first encounter, Jesse, I would say that was my first youth camp. For me, that was the first time I really felt His presence. At first, it was weird, and then I felt this heavy weight on my shoulder, and then my ears were getting really warm. They were like no natural tears. They were like really like hot tears, like boiling hot. And I'm like, why am I feeling this? And that, like I was still weirded out. And then all of a sudden, something came to me and just says, it's okay, just let go, just let it out. It's okay. He's here with you, right? And that's when I felt that. And then the song came out, and it said that the song was "How Great Is Our God." And until now, every time I hear that song, I get very emotional. And when I heard that song, I was like, wow, that's when everything just outpoured, all the emotions, all my baggages and all that. Like I basically laid them down, and it felt like they dissolved right before me. So that was my first encounter, and after that, I just felt like, wow, everything is really possible. Everything can really be solved if I do have Him in my life. So yeah, that was an experience I'll never forget.
After becoming a Christian, do you think that you've made amends with your issues in the past? Like, say, have you forgiven yourself? Have you forgiven your stepdad with everything that happened afterwards?
Jesse, to be honest with you, as weird as it might sound, even though I felt like my stepdad did me wrong and whatnot, I'm at peace with it. I'm really at peace with it, and I thank God that, because even now, like when I speak with Him or whatnot, like it doesn't bother me anymore, right? Yeah, I would say I've forgiven that experience of my life. I feel like whatever I am today is because of what I've gone through. So if I change a certain aspect of it, there might be a certain aspect of my life now that won't be the same, right? So all that experiences that I've gone through the past, that's all the work of God. That's all the work of God to mold me to who I am now. But you guys are probably all familiar with that saying that through Him I can do all things. So if you don't mind, I'll read it to you. So in Philippians 4:11-13, right? It says, "Not that I am speaking of being in need, for I have learned in whatever situation I am to be content. I know how to be brought low, and I know how to abound. In any and every circumstances, I have learned the secret of facing plenty and hunger, abundance and need. I can do all things through Him who strengthens me."